This is the CineSnob Podcast.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 246 of the CineSnob Podcast. I'm Jerrod Kingery.
I'm Cody Villafana.
Cody, is that the Corpus Christi Hooks Whataburger shirt?
Yes, it is. It's a honey butter chicken biscuits shirt.
I really dig that shirt. I never bought the shirt. I have the hat somewhere.
Yeah, I've got the hat. It fell. I have it.
I trust you. It sounded like something broke. I'm sorry. Sorry to have you.
It was some things that I was using to hang pictures that fell off the desk. So,
have you ever gone to a Corpus Christi Hooks game?
Yeah, I've been to a few.
Is it just another minor league team?
Yeah, but the stadium is nice. It's like, it's sort of like more on the Round Rock level than it is Wolf Stadium. There's an actual Whataburger there, and it's got the view of like a bridge and all kinds
I
of
was
stuff.
talking to someone the other day about. Do you remember when? And I can't remember if it was when the AT&T Center opened or if it was like shortly after it opened when they added the Whataburger in there.
Mm-hmm.
How big a deal that was.
Yeah.
To have an actual like franchise in a building like that, and now it seems to be just the norm everywhere.
Yeah, pretty much. But no, I do remember that, and that actually like still functions pretty well in there. They can move food. It's never a super long wait.
I remember, and I don't know if they still are, but they were open just all the time anyway.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it used to be you could go in there, like if you ever found yourself somehow by the AT&T Center for lunch on a random weekday, you could go to that Whataburger. Same with the fan shop. I don't know if the fan shop's still open all the time.
Yeah.
But you could just, I mean, again, there's like no rhyme or reason to be near the AT&T Center in the middle of the day when nothing's happening. But anyway, we've been off a couple weeks. And in the meantime, last episode, you recapped the in-person experience for Fantastic Fest here in Austin. And since then, you partook in Fantastic Fest at home, Cody.
Yeah. Yeah, so the Fantastic Fest at home experience was great. I mean, I think it's the same for everyone, including like the press, but it's all done through the Alamo Drafthouse On Demand app, if you've ever used that app before. So it treats them like rentals, basically. And they had a full list of titles in there. And so I would not only watched at home, I actually watched on an airplane when I was traveling. I downloaded Fantastic Fest movie to my iPad and watched it there.
Is it good airplane watching? Like, is it good? Like, is it? They're not too out there, are they?
I think you got to be careful with what you pick.
Okay.
And I picked a documentary, so it was. I figured it was pretty neutral. So I mean, like in terms of the narrative stuff, I mean, I talked about this movie a little bit last week, but the Antares Paradox was part of the at-home experience, and I think that was, I don't think much topped that movie, which was again
that's this like kind of the single person Spanish language, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think it is from Spain specifically, but yeah, single person, sci-fi intimate kind of movie. The one movie I did want to talk about was a documentary I saw, which was the best documentary I saw at the festival, which was a movie called Chop and Steal. So sort of the premise of this this movie is that there's these two guys who created the Found Footage Festival, which I don't know if you've ever watched any of that stuff, but it's essentially like a collection of weird VHS tapes from...
Yeah, I've seen parts of it, yeah.
Yeah, and from like across decades and decades, right? And so they collect it, they find a bunch of weird stuff, and then they put it together and like tour the festival. But those guys, a while back, put together this TV prank. And it's one of those things where, if you like in comedy circles, this is a very well-known prank, but I think the videos have, not too many views on them, but it was this character called K-Strass, who was basically like a motivational speaker who did all of his stuff through yo-yoing. And it was portrayed by Mark Proch, who I think a lot of people know these days from What We Do in the Shadows, but you know, this was back before he was like famous at all. And so the whole bit was like, he would like motivational speak about yo-yoing, and then he would do yo-yo demos on TV, but he did not know how to yo-yo at all. So he would just make a fool of himself. And so the idea was that they were able to like prank these news stations into booking them and just over and over and over again. And then so the where it comes from, the name Chop and Steal was, you know, the guys who created that character and who created the festival did this prank called Chop and Steal, where they played two strongmen doing like ridiculous tasks on live morning television. And like they weren't, and I'm sure you'll have plenty to say about this, but they weren't vetted at all. Nobody ever looked them up. Nobody Googled them. They just booked them on the spot. And what ended up happening was that a big news station owner,
it was Gray,
them.
Right?
It was Gray, yeah. Gray sued them for essentially being embarrassed. I mean, what it all boils down to,
right,
in misrepresenting themselves. And so the movie sort of talks a little bit about the guys as individuals. It talks a little bit about like the pranking aspect, and also gets into the K-Straw stuff, gets into the Chop and Steal stuff. And then it kind of shows them sort of like diverging. Like one of them is, you know, it like actually ends up like working for Draft House, doing like tabletop games for Mondo, and like one of them wants to stay in LA, and so it's this really interesting movie of like friendship, but also diving into this prank stuff that they end up doing. It all ends up culminating on this America's Got Talent prank that I actually don't know if it's public knowledge what they pulled off there, because it never aired on TV. But essentially they got booked on America's Got Talent in the midst of like the lawsuit, and figured that they would be like made fun of for doing it. So they secretly planned a side prank, like a double prank on them, which ended up being revealed in the movie, which was very funny. But yeah, so I think it's really good. I think that it's a little bit surface level. I would love to know a little bit more about like the psychology of the lawsuit, and sort of like tapping a little bit more into like, you know, I think it's a little bit of low-hanging fruit when they're talking about like news stations being gullible and stuff like that. But it is enjoyable. And I think like, again, just to see like the prominence of like, you know, people being able to dig through garbage VHS tapes and like create this like festival out of it that they fund their lives and careers is actually pretty cool to see.
And that's the Winnebago Man is related to this. I know. Same director.
Winnebago Man.
Yeah. That's one of the first kind of big pops I remember seeing from them. That I can't remember if that was part of the found footage festival or not. I just remember that like making the rounds on the internet, like the proto YouTube days.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I saw these guys. Actually, when I became aware of the prank was on Tosh.0 like 7 or 8 years ago. They were profiled. Yeah, I mean, I get it. It's funny. It's the same with the Borat clip from the first Borat film. You've got these poor overworked producers that are looking to fill just minutes in a morning show, and they book these dipshits that are pranking them, and like, it's funny.
I mean, and it does. I mean, and again, like the stuff that you see is like them making like awful like protein drinks, and then just watching an anchor drink it.
Well, you know, I in all my years in TV news, I was adamant that producers and that anybody that I knew that worked for me, like, you need to be up to date on pop culture. Like, you need to not get fooled. Mm-hmm. I mean, the biggest one was obviously like April Fool's Day. I'm like, don't you check with me first before you do anything, because we're not going to be the ones that get fucking pranked. But I can remember very, very fondly when the first Borat movie came out, and like by then it was like bubbling up. Like, I knew of the character, and I knew and I had seen the character. I'd watched some of the BBC stuff from before, and I remember like it was starting to hit critical mass, and there were people still in like the newsroom who were like, "Who's Borat?" I'm like, man, we could have been fucking fooled just like these poor bastards.
Yeah.
It's ultimately innocent. Did they ever say how the lawsuit turned out? I just knew it happened.
I think they settled. I don't remember what ended up happening. I know that the news company like made a demand that they make a statement and do all this stuff, and they said no. And I think they settled without having to concede anything. So I don't know if the suit was just dropped or what, but they did not have any like major repercussions of it.
I do remember somehow seeing the Mark Prosh yo-yo guy. I don't remember in what context though. But yeah, I do for sure remember Chop and Steal, and yeah.
Yeah, and it seems kind of like sort of like a victimless crime kind of thing where the worst thing that happens is some morning news person embarrasses themselves a little bit, but again, like if it just goes to show the lack of vetting when you're, I guess, trying to fill time and you're just like, well, whatever.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess. I mean, I assume, and I don't know what sort of elaborate ruse they played. I know Sacha Baron Cohen tends to go pretty deep.
The understanding I got is that it's not elaborate at all.
for Sacha Baron Cohen,
no,
or
for Chop and Steal?
Probably not.
Yeah.
But I mean, at that point, it's like, what are you gonna do? Like, you got these two guys that are strongmen, like.
Yeah, but they're also specifically targeting like the Midwest, and I don't know if that makes a difference if you're on some like random ass market in Iowa. Like,
dude, it is all about filling time in the mornings, no matter where you are. Like in my most recent job, we had a 2.5 hour morning show, and you watch it, and you're like it's just you need something to put on the air. We've got it. Here you go. You can put it on the air. I can't imagine the ones that are like 4 hours, like a Fox station. It's like just in the middle of God knows where in Colorado Springs or some shit, where it's like, let's just put whatever we got on the air. And that's, I think ultimately, like, I feel like having seen that, like the jig was up pretty quick. Like, it wasn't like an ongoing thing. Like, I think as soon as they realized they were being, like, as soon as they started talking, you could tell like they were being pranked. But
yeah, but they continued to do it. I mean, there's multiple appearances, and like even like the K-Strauss thing, like there's like 5 or 6 videos of him on TV. It's just crazy how it continued to happen, and like they talk about it in the movie, how like they're even shocked that they kept on getting through with it, and so. I'll tell you. I don't want to spoil it in here, but I can tell you about the America's Got Talent thing because it's very funny.
Okay. What else you got? Anything else of note?
No, those were the big highlights. I think that again, they did some interesting things. Like part of the festival lineup was like stuff that aired that screened at the festival, and then they had this whole section called Burnt Ends, which was like some like virtual exclusive stuff. Like, I think People's Joker was originally supposed to be there. It ended up getting pulled off of the platform altogether. But and then there was, some stuff like Mr. Organ, which was a movie I saw at the festival, ended up getting pulled off the platform for some reason that they never explained. But yeah, I mean, it's a great experience too. And these virtual festivals too have gotten so good where like the quality of the film is like a perfect, high def, non-watermarked thing. And it creates a really great experience. So, if you ever want to save money and just do the digital part, you can get a pretty good selection of the films. I don't think you're always going to see the tip top of what's available at the festival, but you can definitely see some good stuff. Just experiencing it that way.
And this was available to the public. I remember getting an email.
Yeah, it definitely was. And I don't remember the cost of it, but it was. Oh wait, never mind. I don't have it anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you're getting access to like, a solid 30, 35 movies, and they give you an entire week to watch it. And the cool thing about it too is that it ends after the in-person festival ends. So if you go to the festival and you spend your week and a half there, you could extend your experience. And they were offering it to badge holders for like an extra like $60. To just add on the virtual piece. Now, at that point, you've spent hundreds of dollars. But,
yeah. Well.
But it's still a cool experience.
Cool. All right. Well, anything else to add before we move on?
Yeah, we had a news thing we were going to talk about.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. We were going to talk about Knives Out. The Glass Onion, specifically, a Knives Out mystery. Hitting theaters a month before its Netflix release. Mm-hmm. I don't recall the Netflix release being put out this far in advance before. Mm-hmm. And I know you were excited about that.
Well, yeah, it's particularly significant for a few reasons. First and foremost, typically speaking, Netflix has kind of balked at working with, or excuse me, I should say theater chains have balked at working with Netflix. And this is going to be the first movie where the three major chains, AMC, Regal, and Cinemark, are all on board with putting out the movie. It's going to be out in 600 theaters, which again is not quite a wide release, but it's like half of a wide release. It's wide-ish. And it's going to be exclusive for like six or 7 days. So the week of Thanksgiving, basically, it'll be out in theaters, and then a month later it'll be out on Netflix. So it really is kind of like that in-between model that people have kind of been looking for, where can Netflix and theaters coexist? I mean, clearly, in the case of the day and date stuff, probably not. Yeah. But this is an interesting medium because it not only gives you that window of 30 days in between, but also the theater is compromising by having it in general, and Netflix is compromising by or actually I should say that backwards. Netflix is compromising by allowing it in theaters, and the theaters are compromising by only getting a week of the movie. So I'm really interested to see how it goes, and if it does like huge box office numbers, do they extend it, or is it like, nope, that's it? Anyone who else wants to see it, the buzz will carry over to Netflix. I'm genuinely curious.
Yeah, I mean, this is the first time that I recall they haven't done the day and date thing, or at least tried to. And understandably, the theaters said no way to that shit, and I get it. Amazon Prime has done that, or Prime Video, however they want to call their release, whatever they release. That's always been a quick theatrical run, at least a month or so before it hits Amazon, if I recall correctly. Because what was there was something that was big that I can't remember. But anyway, yeah, I'm curious to see how well it does too, because is it just to drive people to Netflix when they miss it? Because Thanksgiving is going to be a fucked up week. I don't know what else is being released. And I think you probably might still be riding the Black Panther Wakanda Forever at that point, I'm guessing. I don't know if there's any other big releases between that and Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I'm checking. Yeah, I mean, Wakanda Forever opens on like a couple weeks before it, so I don't see anything major, but I could be missing something. But
yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing it. You didn't get to see it, right? Or did it play it? It didn't play at Fantastic Fest, did it? No,
it did not. No. Yeah. Only the second secret screening, by the way, ended up being Hellraiser, a movie that we got in our inbox like the next day.
Yeah, I didn't watch. I've never seen any Hellraiser movie.
Me neither.
This one's getting a lot of buzz too. Good for that. Yeah. I don't know. I'm curious to see how it goes. I wonder if this is just a big Oscar push thing at the same time, instead of having it play just the week in New York and LA. Because it's a little more of a broad appeal movie, I think, than most of Oscar bait. But anyway, yeah, great.
Let's see what happens. We'll be able to see it in a little over a month.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go ahead and move on to reviews.
Here are this week's reviews.
This week we've got Bros.
I woke up laughing about you so rudely calling me out on my shit.
Well, you deserved it, bitch. Honestly, I was impressed. You may be more emotionally unavailable than I am.
Well, maybe we can be emotionally unavailable together.
Maybe we can be emotionally unavailable together. Who's writing your texts, Maroon 5?
Fuck off.
Kidding. We can go out. Are you asking me out?
I'm down for whatever.
Yeah, same.
Cool.
Sounds good.
So, tomorrow? Or we can do whenever.
Yeah, I can do whenever and I can do whatever.
I don't care what we do.
Yeah, me neither. We can do whatever and we can do it whenever. Does that work for you?
Yeah, that definitely works.
Great. Whatever, whenever.
Cool. Whatever, whenever. GIF of Michael Scott dancing.
It's good. Office gif? This person isn't gay. Heart. Oh, no. Unheart. Thumbs up.
Peace.
Peace. Later. Can't you heart my later, bitch? Bye.
This is a romantic comedy from producer Judd Apatow, notably, and maybe at this point infamously, the first like major same-sex led. What would you call it? What would you call this? Like a
gay
romantic comedy. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess like the cast is entirely
Every cast member, as far as I know.
yeah, is from the LGBTQ community. So this came out a couple weeks ago. Didn't do so well at the box office, and has sparked a minor controversy. Cody, tell us about Bros and what you thought of it.
Yeah, I mean, a minor controversy kind of its own design.
Yeah, I really hate when this happens because
Yeah.
it's never a good look.
It's not. I get it, but again, it's anyway. Maybe we'll touch on that later. But yeah, so what you have is sort of like this trend that Apatow has kind of fallen into. He usually directs these kinds of things, but finding a comedic voice and then allowing them a platform to make a movie. You saw it. Apatow's I think his last two movies were both of this vein, with Trainwreck with Amy Schumer and The King of Staten Island with Pete Davidson. And
You're forgetting The Bubble, and you should forget The Bubble.
Yeah,
But yes.
yeah, we're gonna forget that thing ever happened. God damn, I forgot about that.
It's so bad. It's so
Yeah.
bad.
So you get the same here with Billy Eichner. I think most people would probably know him from Billy on the Street, the show that he had. What channel was that? Was that on Fuse?
It was on Fuse, and then I believe it moved to True TV.
Okay.
I think maybe I'm wrong on that. I know it was on Fuse, and I feel like it moved. It's been off the air for a few years now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, where he would go up and basically assault people with questions. I don't know.
He was running around on the street with a microphone, and he'd ask
Shouting
random
at
questions for $1, and
Yeah. And also he was on Parks and Rec. He had a small role there. And
Of course,
so really,
in the Lion King remake too, he was Timon.
I never saw that. So
He and Seth Rogen are the only good things in that movie. So.
Oh, okay, well, that's good.
John Oliver's okay.
Yeah, so what you get is essentially this romantic comedy setup of kind of like a relationship that is sort of I don't know, what would you say, like it's like kind of like a weirdly mismatched interest that these two characters have. Like one is a little bit like maybe less serious about things.
Well, Billy Eichner's character is more of a he's enmeshed in the culture and the struggle that the culture consists of.
Mm-hmm.
He's like a podcaster and a board member of this LGBTQ museum. Meanwhile, Luke McFarland's character is just sort of an everyday dude.
Mm-hmm.
Who's he's what is he like a patent? No, not a patent. Like an estate attorney.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's just he's not part of the struggle. I guess he's kind of kept himself away from that.
Yeah, exactly. And so what you get is sort of like the sort of story that they have together, their love story, and I think for the most part, I think that it hits romantic comedy beats really well, and I think it's it's a very I don't think that it does too much that strays outside of the norm there in terms of like the story beats, but I don't think that it has to, because I think that's one of the greatest qualities about it, is that it really fits into the mold of what you would expect from a good rom-com. I think that there's some definite really really moments of the movie. I think that the script is good. I think that there's a lot of good, I think, supporting characters that kind of pop in and out of the movie. I think that there's some good cameos too, I think, as well. In the movie, I think that it does suffer a little bit from this sort of it's too long Apatow itis, whatever you want to call that.
It is under 2 hours, thankfully, but yes.
Yeah. But I think the one thing that I think maybe it struggles with a little bit is like there's a lot of inclusion of a lot of like LGBTQ history that is like sort of interwoven into the story. And, Billy Eichner's character like never misses an opportunity to like tell some story from that community. And while I think all of that stuff is really important and those are important stories to weave in there, I think it may go to the well like one too many times with that kind of thing where like almost everything has to be punctuated with that. And I think there's a lot of more like cynical people online. And honestly, from what I understand, a lot of not cynical people, but just people from that community have maybe like accused the movie of being a little bit too proud of itself in that regard.
Yeah.
I've been seeing that going around a little bit, and I don't know that I would go that far, but I do think that it kind of like it kind of reinforces certain points like over and over and over and over again. And I think that it would be just as strong of a message if it was a little bit of a tighter movie. And really kind of like if this was like a trim hour and a half, romantic comedy, I think it would be stellar. Still, that being said, I do think it's a really enjoyable movie where like it, you have a reason to kind of root for the relationship. I think that, Eichner is good in the role, but I think that Luke McFarland is really impressive, especially for a guy who sort of has been toiling around with Hallmark movies for.
Yeah, I didn't realize that until after I saw the movie because the movie sends up Hallmark movies a lot, but
yeah, and that's sort of where that's basically most of what he's done.
Yeah.
If you look at it, like if you look at his IMDb or his Wikipedia page, you'll see like literally 12 Hallmark movies in a row.
Well, I mean, he's just like your average like beefcake white guy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, he's got the look exactly what you're expecting from a Hallmark movie.
Yeah, but again, he's
really
I
think he's good. Yeah, no, I agree. I didn't mean to. I wasn't trying to.
Well, no,
to
but
besmirch him.
it's just. That's the interesting thing about it is because like I was watching the movie and I couldn't place him anywhere. And it's kind of like not disconcerting, but it's like confusing because you're like, how that guy looks familiar, but maybe it's just because he looks like a handsome white guy.
A big hunky white dude.
Yeah. But no, I think I think that it's a really a really solid movie that I think I wish more people would have seen. I think that maybe there's some misplaced blame going on here, but it's good.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with pretty much everything you said. I think it's it's first and foremost for a good part of its run is very funny. Like there's some really funny moments in there. There's a particular cameo that I won't spoil if you're interested in seeing it still. That is really funny. It comes about halfway through the movie, and it's referencing a famous sitcom from the 90s and 2000s, or maybe the 2000s. I do think, unfortunately, this movie came with a lot of baggage, and I think of its own design. Being a huge budgeted, relatively huge budgeted romantic comedy released in theaters featuring an entirely LGBTQ cast. This movie had, the expectations of history on its shoulders. When I don't know that it necessarily needs that. I understand the temptation, and I understand the its feeling that it needed to go there, but I think there is probably one too many like kind of stop the movie monologues about everything being where it gets a little too serious.
Mm-hmm.
And that's I don't want to deny them any movie its chance to kind of make its place in history, but I think it does hinder the movie just a little bit. And then after the fact, now Eichner blaming homophobes and things, which certainly that has to be part of the deal, but it's still bombed regardless. Even if you figure in like the idea that every homophobic person in America would have gone to see it and didn't go to see it. I think this isn't where the comedy lives anymore. This sort of thing doesn't live in a theater anymore.
Yeah.
Like you and I were talking, what was the last big budget comedy that was a massive hit? And I think you have to go back to a Hangover movie.
Yeah.
Like, and that's a long time ago before any of like I was thinking about Bridesmaids. Bridesmaids was like 2009, 2008. Like that,
Yeah.
these movies just this doesn't exist anymore. And one of the things I saw that kind of, was, this is a streaming movie. Let's be honest. This is where movies like this live. And it's not because it's a gay romantic comedy. It's because it's a romantic comedy. Like you're going to have a hard time selling any of this stuff to a massive audience anymore because it's just not the climate that we're in.
Yeah.
And it sucks that like, I don't know. I hate when it gets ugly and it turns to a blame game as to why people didn't see a movie. But
yeah, I mean, I think it's because I understand the argument and I understand like the need for supporting a movie that kind of like puts this community in the spotlight, and it's different from most of what we see, if not everything that we see. But also at the same time, you have to understand the odds that are stacked against the deck here. It's just one of those things where like we've been saying, that the death of like the mid-budget comedy is just so clear and apparent. The idea that you would have like this $100 million R-rated comedy opening weekend is like a pipe dream for any movie, not for anything. Like, I mean, that just doesn't happen anymore. And if it does happen, it's like this. It's ultimately like kind of like a fluke thing that you can't really rely upon. And so, I certainly understand the frustration of it all, and how a movie that you feel like is important and in many ways is important for representation and for telling these types of stories within this community. It's an important movie, but again, to blame that entirely is sort of like ignoring this huge piece of the puzzle, which is just that you're an R-rated studio comedy, and those types of things either don't get made or don't succeed regardless of who's making them pretty much these days. Like even Apatow doesn't draw this. Like Apatow's, if you look at King of Staten Island, that was a pandemic, but also an online release. And that was, from a major studio too.
And I mean, Adam Sandler's moved to streaming only. I'm looking at a list of the top 10 box office comedies from the 2010s. Number 10 is Neighbors at $270 million. Then you have Pitch Perfect. I don't know why they're counting Green Book, but okay. 22 Jump Street, The Hangover Part 3, Intouchables, a movie, it was a French comedy. Ted from 2012, $549 million. Men in Black 3, whatever, comedy, kiss my ass. And then number 1 and number 2 are the Deadpool movies.
Yeah, that's
not the same thing. Like the thing that's closest to this is The Hangover, or maybe Neighbors. Two movie. Well, Neighbors is Nick Stoller also.
Yeah.
So that's probably the closest comparison, and that was 8 years ago at this point. Like it's just not happening anymore, and it sucks because that's some of the best movie going experiences of my life is watching these comedies like this. But it's dead. Like it's dead in theaters, and I don't think that. You can blame this on homophobes or anything. I mean, certainly that's certainly part of it.
Well, and to be fair, Billy Eichner also said that straight people in certain areas also didn't come out for the movie too, which is again placing blame on everyone at that point.
Yeah.
It's and again, this is kind of different than like the typical thing that we see is when your movie gets like critically bombed, people will say like, oh, well, the critics sunk the movie or something like that. This is different, which is just like people like the box office didn't pan out, which again sucks, but there's got to be other factors than that.
Well, and I saw a lot of the idea that this was advertised more as like a groundbreaking thing than just a plain old funny thing. And I don't know how much that plays into it, but
I mean, maybe. I don't. But I mean, I don't know.
Also, a late September release date versus an August release date. All this kind of stuff that you're in horror movie season now, and I don't know. It's disappointing when a movie like this doesn't find an audience, and maybe it will on streaming. I mean, probably where it frankly belongs when it hits Peacock in whatever it's going to be, 3 weeks, 4 weeks.
Yeah. I mean, and I hope people do find it, because I think that it is a really funny and enjoyable movie. And I think that anyone who, the romantic comedy is such a hard thing to get right without feeling like it came out of a machine. And this one, while it does find those familiar beats, like, again, the take on it is fresh, the sort of representation is fresh. And I think above all else, which is like the biggest sin that most of these things commit, is that they're not funny. It's very funny.
Yeah. What's your grade for Bros, Cody?
I give Bros a solid B.
Yeah, I do too. A solid B for Bros from me. Yeah, well, that's going to do it for this week. Next week, Cody, Black Adam.
Is that next week?
That is next week already. No, I'm sorry. That's a week after this. I don't know what's coming out. I forgot we're on.
Yeah, we'll skip, because I think it's just Halloween Ends is like the big one.
Oh yeah, you and I didn't see any of the other ones.
So we'll be back on the weekend of the 21st, where there's Black Adam and Ticket to Paradise.
I'm really curious about Black Adam. I got a screening invite for that, and I can't go because I'll be out of town. But
I've heard some things. I'll tell you off mic.
Oh, okay. I've heard some things too. I don't know what. Maybe it's the same thing, but. Anyway, if you want to reach us, you can email us at podcast@cinesnob.net. Find us on Twitter @cinesnob, Facebook cinesnobnet, youtube.com/cinesnob. Cody, the Ramble, is that happening tonight?
Yeah, we're doing a quick recording of the Ramble Radio for Tuesday, and then regular Ramble and another Ramble Radio. Regular Ramble on Wednesdays, Ramble Radio on Friday. Whatever.
Whatever, man. Fucking just listen.
Yeah.
Anything else before we go?
No, that'll do it.
All right. On that note, I'm Jerrod Kingery.
I'm Cody Villafana.
Thank you for listening to the CineSnob Podcast. To read reviews, interviews, and more, visit cinesnob.net. See you next week.